Good evening. Welcome to the January 18th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'd first like to call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with prayer and pledge. Wendell Davis is going to lead us in prayer, and Stephen Brian Ford a pledge. Please rise.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for an opportunity to serve our community, and Lord, that you would just place in our heart to serve our community well. God, just be with the students that are off with this weather, be with the city as they take care of the streets and just try to keep everything running smoothly. God, we just love you and thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, fellas. Item number 3, citizen comments. I see none at this time.
That's correct.
Correct. Number 4, approval or correction of the minutes from December 21st meeting. They were in your packet. I have reviewed them. I didn't see any adjustments, but if there are none, we can.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second it.
A motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Number 5 would be new business. Mitch, you're up.
The applicant has requested a setback variance to expand the existing office building to make room for an additional conference room and breakout room. Property is zoned C2 general commercial and is approximately 2.28 acres in size. Minimum yard requirements in a C2 zone for a front setback are 35 feet, a side setback of 15, and a rear of 20 feet. Property has 3 additional buildings on the lot. Applicant is proposing a front setback variance of 23 feet to allow for a 12-foot setback. The proposed office expansion is to be 24 foot by 36 foot. If approved, there is an existing stormwater drain that would need to be rerouted, as the proposed addition would sit atop the current drain. This would not be covered by the town of Smyrna. Section 7.080D of the zoning ordinance detail the requirements for variances not involving special flood hazard areas, and they are detailed below. Standards for variances not involving flood hazard areas. The board shall not grant a variance unless it makes findings based upon evidence presented as follows. The particular physical surroundings, shape, topographic conditions of the specific property involved that would result in a particular hardship upon the owner as distinguished from mere inconvenience if the strict application of this ordinance were carried out must be stated. Staff finds there is no particular hardship for this request. The conditions upon which a petition for a variance is based would not be applicable generally to other property within the same district. Applicant states the reason for this request is to expand the existing building to make room for a new conference and breakout room due to the relocation of the company office in Orlando to Smyrna. The variance will not authorize activities in a zone district other than those permitted by this ordinance. Buildings may be expanded in the C2 district but are not to expand beyond setback lines. The variance would not authorize any activity not permitted in the C2 district. Financial returns shall not be considered as a basis for granting the variance. Property owner has not identified financial returns as a reason for requesting the variance. The alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property after the effective date of this ordinance. The location of the building was created by the applicant. Applicant was part of the development of the site, and building was placed on the front setback line. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance in other lands, structures, or buildings in the same districts. Staff finds the variance requested will provide the applicant with special privileges denied by the ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings in the C2 district due to the alleged hardship listed above. The variance is the minimum that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Staff finds that the buildings are closely positioned to the setback line. Thus, it would be difficult to expand the buildings past the setback lines or eliminate parking. However, the buildings have been utilized for almost 18 years as constructed. The granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or interest to other property or improvements in the area in which the property is located. Staff finds the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the area. The proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, substantially increase the congestion in the public streets, increase the danger of fire, endanger the public safety, or substantially diminish or impair property values within the area. Staff finds the variance will not have any of the above effects, and number 10 is not applicable in this case. Staff would recommend denial of the request due to the lack of an apparent hardship. That is all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Mitch.
Did take a few pictures today. This is from the parking lot. You see the building kind of to the left. That's the existing building. So you see a couple of trash containers and whatnot there. That's where the structure would be built. Would be towards the road from that area, about 24 feet. Again,
What's that behind them? Is that where
Those
those
houses.
those
Is
are
that where those homes are?
Yeah.
Zero lot line duplex homes
Yeah.
behind.
And to
there.
the right is Tokyo.
So
And then across the street is the shopping center where the little Tokyo Japanese restaurant. There's a Sal's
Sullivan's.
Pizza and different things over there.
Tokyo's right there, just out of view.
So that putting it on that side would put it in front of the building behind its front corner, right?
Yes.
Actually, the house.
Yeah, it would be, because those houses also have a 35-foot front setback. The road kind of curves.
So essentially, coming from this angle, it could potentially block the view of that house completely, or at
If
least
you're coming
impede it.
if you're from the parking lot, certainly. If you're in the roadway,
Yeah.
because this is from the parking lot. But,
Okay.
This is kind of from across the street looking at the building. Again, this would be that's the end of the building that would be expanded towards the road. And this is looking at it kind of from the roadway, looking back towards the complex. You can see the complex kind of in the back there.
And that's a residential driveway there.
That's a residential driveway, yeah. But I can give you an overview there. And there was also, the applicant did provide kind of the site plan, and then some architectural elevations. It would match the existing building that's what's being proposed. As far as single-story brick building.
So the way the position of the building is technically the building faces, I guess, north-ish, but because the road is on that side, it's really the side of the building is really the front of the building. Is that right? It's a 35-foot setback?
Right, it's technically the side of the building, but it's the front because the road is the front. So you have a complex of like 4 buildings that face internally to the parking lot.
And what determines that? Is it the address? What determines which road? When you have 3 roads on 3 sides, how do you decide which one's the front?
Well, this one is, if you have 3 roads, you have 3 frontages, really. It's from a setback
So it's
standpoint,
35 from all 3, basically.
It would be from all
I got
sides.
you.
They're 35 feet from the public roadway, and then technically the back of this building is technically a side setback because it's the side of the lot, and then the back, the rear setback is the other side, the opposite side of the property from the Potomac Place road. Front. So
Yeah. So Tokyo's there.
Okay. Any more questions for Kevin? All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to close the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting and open up a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against this request. If you would like to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is, my name is Wayne Belt. I'm the developer of this particular property, Washington Square Office Park, and the one next door, which is Jefferson Square. This actually just faces 2 roads because President's Place on Jim Parker is a different development. So this has 2 parts. It faces Potomac and it faces President's Place. And I actually have, I don't know that you would want this, but since I have it, this might make, this is a larger drawing of what I photocopied that smaller.
Okay.
folder. I might- The architecturally riding by, it's basically going to look the same, what we have. And I guess the question concerning the hardship and how that works, I had a letter in here from the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. This is a division of the U.S. government, and they moved into that space they have 15 years ago. They are the only tenant that's been there, and they had a choice. He could have gone downtown to the Bat Building in Nashville, but Peter Chang, who runs this, happens to live in Laverne, and so this was much more convenient for him. They have been there 15 years. A lot of what they do is go out in the field, but they're closing an Orlando office and want to make this a regional office for the Federal Mediation and Conciliation. And that's the guys that work between union and management when they cannot come to an agreement on a contract to mediate or arbitrate out their agreements. And so Mr. Chang was supposed to be here, and he is stuck in traffic in Atlanta, Georgia, and couldn't get up here, and he lives up here, and he's headed this way.
Right.
But if you look at this little site plan, the site plan here, the properties all face, if you look on where we're proposing to do an addition, this right here is the front porch, and that's actually how you get into each of the offices on each of the buildings, is in the front, and all of them face the parking lot. I understand and realize that's a has a front setback on it, but as you were saying, this actually is the side. If it were a side setback, I'd be asking for a 3-foot sliver on a corner of a 45-degree angle, probably, but it's not. But they have wanted to be able to keep that office here and not have to relocate. There's quite a bit of grass. There is a curve in the road, and there's a number of trees between us and our neighbor behind us in the zero lot line. And in actuality, I'm not thinking because of the trees that's there, what they look at is going to be much different than seeing what the trees are now. But they're looking to build a conference room and a breakout room, and therefore they requested this of me to see if it were possible to enlarge their space. I realize it's a different kind of call than some of the BZAs that you see, but
So let me ask a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
So the first, thanks for coming. Appreciate you being here. The Federal Mediation Service, did they occupy this entire building or only half of it? Is it
just,
subdivided?
there's 4 suites in the building.
Okay.
They have the one that is
Adjacent
faces
to
the
this
road,
area.
and this actually, they're the only ones that, I mean, yes.
It's essentially 4 equal sections, sort of, where theirs starts.
Kind of. The one on each end, yes. They have 1,248 on the first floor, 400-foot mezzanine, 1,648, and so does the person on the end of the building. Both of the ends are mirrored. Then in the middle, there's one with 1,300 and maybe one with 1,500.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
there's a total of
Essentially,
5,000 feet in the whole complex of that particular building.
And the whole
And they
building-
all go on the same porch to get in. Federal Mediation, you go on the front porch, and there's 4 offices there.
The entire building's leased?
Well,
Do you have some of it open?
Well, I only own this one suite. I built it, developed it, and over the years, I've sold different
Okay.
ones.
Gotcha.
I own this unit.
Okay.
And this is the only tenant I've had. All the others, though, are occupied. Yes, every building we have there is occupied. We've had many, we've had a doctor, we had a tech company that all were tenants for 15 years, which is really unusual.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
So it's all leased out?
I think that's what it's saying, yeah.
it's all leased. There's a few owner occupants in there, including the Moody radio station is located there. Not in that building, but next door to it.
Yeah, in this building here, but this building has all 4 occupants in it? I mean, it's all leased?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I'm making sure.
That's what I was getting at, just trying to see about that space, but it's not attached, yeah.
So, in the letter, they said that it's just for occasional meetings and training.
Yes.
Is that for people coming in or people that'll be office there?
No, people that come in for a meeting to
Okay.
be trained, that go back in the field, or people, if they are in a negotiation between two parties, for them to come in. It's occasional. They do a lot of the meetings at the factories or plants
Okay.
or other places.
So, how many meetings do you say they would have a year?
Yeah, I'm not for sure, but I'm gonna imagine, I'm gonna imagine 1 or 2 a month. That's what I kind of imagine.
Okay. So my thought would be, is instead of rebuilding that, why not use a conference center that would be available in the Smyrna area?
I'm unable
I know, I'm
to
just,
answer
just
that.
a
I
suggestion.
think the nature,
I was thinking the same thing, I was like.
I didn't know if I
I
could
think
ask.
the
a
Town of
question. I'm
Smyrna,
new.
town center is great for this kind of thing.
well,
I'm new, so I didn't know if I had
Hey,
the question.
but I
to ask,
understand, it's
but-
not your call, I get that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think they're in some cases dealing with union and management and,
I'll pass you their Friday menu on your way out.
yes.
Does your construction plan include the drainage, storm drainage that would?
Yeah,
have to go?
whatever
You-
is necessary would be our responsibility, my responsibility to take care of. Of course, all the other was to begin with, when it got put in, was my
Yeah.
expense. But yes, whatever that would require to have that where it continues to work properly.
So you developed this when it was originally built?
Yes,
All of these in this area, this block area, but you sold off
that,
pieces?
yes, that and the one behind it too at President's Place. Yes, I
Okay.
developed both of those.
And they're
So
basically
we-
condoed.
They're
type
condos.
Yes, they're condoed units.
So when you built it, you knew where the setback lines were, and you just built it to those, as much as you can, to those lot lines when you developed it?
On the other side, we could have built a bigger building, but our design of the building for the larger ones is this concept, yes.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
Catfish Shanty was the only thing out there in Bob Park Realty when we started there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Since this was 18 years ago, was 35 foot, has that always been the setback? So since it was built, it's always been the
That's
same?
why it's right on the line.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it adjusted over the years, C2 changed or something since it was built.
It's all, setbacks haven't changed.
Okay.
And so, has there been any, I think I read there's not been any other exceptions to this? No one else has gotten an exception to do this?
Not in this complex, no.
I actually got one on the other part when they wanted to put Jim Parker and make it a public road instead of a driveway. I owned the land and I traded some land so they could get that to work for public. So, but I had to get a small variance on the building on the corner and the backside of it.
Yeah, because the road came after the building.
The
kind of
road
thing.
came after the
So
building.
it was a variance that was grandfathered, basically, right?
Kinda, I mean, well, he was granted a variance. I had
Okay.
forgotten about that,
Yeah.
Wayne, but that's, yeah, he was granted a variance, but the road kinda came in and created an issue for him, so.
It was gonna be a private,
It was gonna be a private, it wasn't gonna be a public road.
private road instead of what ended up being the public road. I got no consideration or anything. I just swapped the land and gave it to Bob Parks, and he did me a little trade in the back corner, but we had to have, my building, our stuff was already in place before the last building was built.
And I guess my last question is, could that not be built out towards the parking lot?
That's what we were just
Yeah, we're
discussing.
discussing.
It possibly could. I mean, the
Without-
setback,
It would not require any type of setback
Yeah,
variance to
I
go
mean,
toward
if
parking
he,
lot, no.
if he wanted to, he could. but-
You would lose, obviously, you'd lose some of your
About
parking.
5 spaces.
Yeah, about 4 or 5
Um,
spots there.
They are, I think we counted about 10 spaces over what's our ordinance would require, so they
So-
could, per our ordinance at least, I don't know what their situation is in their condo association and all
Yeah,
that.
right.
They could certainly, from the town standpoint, they could lose probably up to 10 parking spaces and still meet our ordinance for parking. Now, having said that, it probably would have, I say 10, it probably would have to be less than that, because obviously if they add on to the building, that's gonna require a little bit more parking, so they might not can lose 10. and-
Is that based on square footage and not occupancy?
Yes.
Okay.
When
An
I
office occupancy.
looked at it, and I can be wrong, because you know more than I do, we actually had 15 more parking
Okay.
places than what was required. And I think the new area here would only require 3 parking places,
More.
but because we had 15 too
You're
many,
fine, right.
we
Well,
wouldn't.
yeah, it wasn't gonna be an issue to add this on
Yeah,
from a
yeah,
parking standpoint.
right.
But if you lose parking spaces, obviously, we'd have to look at that, but I think it would still be okay
Tokyo.
to do that. If that was, could be done structurally or whatever and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, the setback line kind of arches there a little bit because the road turns, but it still
Right.
could possibly work. Okay, any more questions for Mr. Belt? Mr. Belt, anything else you'd like to add?
No,
All
thank
right.
you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the information. This time I'll close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals for further discussion. Obviously, the dilemma here is what we're charged with, which is an appeal of a zoning ordinance requires some sort of hardship or justification. And unfortunately, we can't seem to find one. I'm going to be honest. I don't generally want to turn away a company who's wanting to relocate here or bring additional jobs or anything to town, but when you can't find a way to do it, you can't find a way to do it. The only thing, and I think seems logical from what we were talking about as an option, is potentially building this into the parking lot, staying on that setback line. Obviously, it does take some parking spaces. It probably wouldn't look aesthetically the same. I mean, I think it might look worse depending on how he did that. You could put another gable, I guess, or something, but that's about the only way to do it without giving any kind of variance, I think, or somewhere else. And part of our questions around the leasing of the building and the different layout was, could he go behind the building and build this breakout room that would attach? But since this isn't attached to their leased portion, I don't think that makes sense either.
I mean, there is some room behind the building if you went back, but it's pretty tight in the back too on this.
Yeah, I
part of
can't
it.
really tell on my drawing how far the building is from the setback. I can see the setback, but I can't really tell how far that is. So it looks like it may be 15 to 18 feet based on the drawing.
Is that a street that approaches that back corner
No.
behind the houses?
Those look like houses
Or is
back
it just
here.
like a fence row or
Yeah,
something?
on the overhead drawing, there is something that looks like there's an alley or back road. I don't think it's
It's where the drainage.
to drain. Yeah, it's drainage easement.
Drainage thing is.
Oh, it's concrete.
It's the property line. There's grass.
understand.
we mow, all
Okay,
that.
okay. It almost looks like there's a vehicle back there.
And
Yeah.
it's a drainage that's mowed. Not a-
Okay.
Not a ditch or
So,
concrete ditch.
Is that the way the code reads?
yeah, I was a little confused. It's kind of a double negative there.
I mean,
So-
they can be expanded, but they can't go into the setback areas.
Yeah, that's,
But
I assume, number 3, B3, the comment says, the staff comment is that buildings may be expanded in the C2 district, but are not to expand beyond the setbacks. Is that that comment's a little different than some of the others we see. I mean, obviously, I kind of think that generally applies to all zones.
Right.
That's why they have to come to BCA, but
Sure.
is that some sort of further adherence that in C2 we're not supposed to ever do it, or is that just
No.
stating that it's...
That's just stating something, there's nothing.
I understand.
Nothing different there, no.
Okay, and there was another one, let me find it, there were 2 knots in the same sentence, and I wasn't really sure what you were trying to tell us.
Double knots.
Let me find it. No, I can't find it now. I thought I marked it. Oh, it's actually the same one. The variance would not authorize any activity not permitted in the C2 district. So that means that a variance would be okay because it's not approving any activity that's
Right, yeah,
restricted.
you're prohibited from,
Okay.
yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, I'm not doing what?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the second sentence. The two knots kind of threw me for a loop for a second. I had to follow it for a second. Any comments, anybody? I mean,
Is the city okay with the drainage change that they would have to make? Has that been looked at?
We just said that, we haven't really looked at it, because, I mean, I think it's something that could be accomplished. I don't think that's not an issue that would.
Not for us to consider.
Right.
yeah, I'm assuming
It was
that,
really for their information, make sure, I think he probably knew about it anyway since he developed the site, but that's something we had saw from the original plan, the grading plan, there was a pipe and whatnot there, so. We really was just a point out for you all, for the information and for theirs. I think that shouldn't be a
And just
reason to
keep it
approve or
locked.
deny, really, it's just for informational, really.
Kick them out.
yeah. Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking, you know, you could potentially do some road drains or something there to take up the water, but connect to the same connection, basically,
Right.
just move it.
It would just be moved,
Yeah.
right?
Anything else? Trying to find a way to make this work, but I'm not really seeing it. Anybody got something? All right, if no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to deny, as it's presented to us.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to deny it based on no hardship being found. All those in favor of denial? Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion is denied. Mr. Belt, I would encourage you to consider maybe finding a way to move into the parking lot or something.
I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, so, I appreciate it.
My architect, because I do think
An L building.
architecturally, we have a lovely building. and
Yes.
I built many of these in Murfreesboro. and I really think though, I might be able to do something that way. And
Yeah.
because of the way it actually tilts in the front there, I can actually pull that forward. This part here where all those, I can pull that forward and it will look the same.
Yeah.
Looking at it from the front.
Yeah,
We'll
okay,
have a
good.
Slightly,
Good. We hope that you're successful.
Yes.
well, I really, but I thought, why didn't I think of this? I've been doing this so long.
Stevens for hire if you need assistance.
That's like a
Number
collective
6, staff comments. Any other staff comments?
Don't have anything else.
Excellent, thank you. If, in that case, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I second.
Motion and seconded, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.